Goeienaand luisteraars, dis Ronel Lemmer en ons gesels vanaand weer met 'n baie interessante gas. U sal onthou dat ons gesels het met Sandy Demand van die Body Stress Release Academy en vanaand vat ons die gesprek verder en ek is baie opgewonde om julle voor te stel aan Jeanette Gibbs wat ook 'n dosent is daar by die Body Stress Release Academy, maar sy het iets baie meer nog meer opwindend en interessant om vir ons te vertel. Jeanette, welcome to this program and thank you for your time. Will you please introduce yourself to the listeners?
Hi, Ronel, and the listeners. Thank you so much for the opportunity to chat to you today. I am a body stress release practitioner and I live in the Garden Route. My passion, besides body stress release, is being part of the Body Stress Release Foundation and outreach programs where we work in communities, primarily with disabled children.
That sounds really interesting. I'm going to ask you a little bit more about that, Jeanette, but I'm very curious to know, how did you become a practitioner? What's your story? You all have a story, don't you?
Yes. Well, I was a teacher, but then landed up working in the IT industry until I was 35. And I experienced tremendous body stress in my own body. And after trying various techniques, body stress release was the only modality that really supported my very stressful lifestyle. So my husband and I, we've been clients of body stress release for best part of 25 years. And I realized that I wanted to be in a profession that helped people. And so that started the journey of body stress release. And I've been in practice now for nearly 20 years.
Oh, wow. That is quite a long time. Jeanette, tell us about the foundation at first and then the outreach program. What do you mean if you say foundation? What does that mean?
Well, what happened, Ronel, is practitioners were inspired to work in communities. Most people that come and study body stress release, they do it because they really want to help people. And they were initiated various what we call outreaches, where they would work in communities for a period of time to actually help those communities. But it got to a point where it started very organically, you could say. And then we decided we needed to set up a foundation to assist with fundraising, because some of these outreaches take place in rural communities where practitioners need to travel. So the foundation was set up primarily as a vehicle to start fundraising to support the practitioners in the outreach programs.
And when did that happen? When did the foundation start?
The foundation, we started, it was 2019 that we started the processes of registering the foundation.
Oh, and then, but I think it was it in 2018 when you went to the Eastern Cape? Am I correct there?
Yes, it is. The outreach in the Eastern Cape came about that the late co-founder of Body Stress Release happened to be watching Carte Blanche one Sunday night. And they had aired a program highlighting the challenges some of the schools were having in the Eastern Cape with lack of resources. And one of the schools where Ikwezi Lokusa Special Needs School, they had about 240 pupils with various disabilities with no resources, absolutely none. So we thought, let's contact them and see if they needed our help. And they said, yes, please come. And so that started the relationship there, and we go there twice a year. in 2021, obviously with COVID, we weren't able to get there, but we have just completed an outreach there in May.
Oh, so you go for what period of time?
A 2-week period, and we try. Sometimes we're able to 7 or 8 practitioners volunteer their time, and they go off there, and they work flat out to see as many children as possible. And we try always to have 3 sessions per child during that period. And if there is time afterwards, we also work with the care staff and teachers of the school.
Where is, close to what town is that, Jeanette?
It is in Umtata.
Oh.
Okay, yes.
So it's quite far.
It is far.
Yeah.
And we've been blessed, because the first outreach we had no funding, and we stayed in the backpackers at Umtata in 2018, and the backpackers were so they were so pleased that somebody was coming to assist, and they gave us our accommodation for free. So we have been really blessed.
Wow. Tell us about the very first one. What did you expect and what happened there?
The one in Umtata.
Anyone, how it all started and what, I'm sure you also didn't really know what to expect and how it's going to roll out.
Well, it was interesting because we didn't know what to expect. And certainly it's not often you get children that we get the opportunity to work with so many children with so many varied conditions. And some of them, I think, sadly, could be avoided if nutrition was better in the communities.
Sure.
So we had no idea. The staff as well also had no idea on what to expect. So it was the headmaster of the school then, he allowed us to work on him in front of the staff. So
oh, wow.
Yeah. So they could see that the process was very gentle and support us during the process. So it was a bit chaotic for the first 2 or 3 days. But we set up a process where on one day we would work with children that were in wheelchairs. The next day we would work with children with walking aids, and then children that were mobile but had disabilities. And the staff were unbelievable, and they're generally very, very caring with the children with so few resources.
Sure.
The school was initially built by a Catholic mission. So the facilities, they were really well thought out, but they have been very poorly maintained. So it's an interesting place. And the children were very nervous of us because they also didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
But it is now much easier because you've seen some of the children now at regular intervals, and there's been progress, and the staff start seeing, particularly the teachers, find it hugely beneficial. They all find that the children are much calmer.
Oh, really?
Yes, after the sessions, and less restless, because a lot of them live with a lot of discomfort. Children.
Sure.
I have some beautiful poem that one of the pupils wrote for us, which I can share with you.
Please, please, please.
So his name is, actually I won't share his name, but he says, "My body is healed within your hands. Look, God, what he has sent just to me. Angels coming from heaven with beautiful smiles on their faces. I had no surviving body without a painkiller tablet. I had no clue on how to treat my body. To the doctors is where I used to go because I wanted a free body with no pain. Living with stress made my mind and body go different pathways. let's say, singing different tunes. Today, here I'm telling you about my free body stress release I got with the electrical hands of yours, making my bones in our bodies to move, to be where they're supposed to be. Today, here I am with my free body, connecting my body with my mind, now singing the same tune, with lyrics telling me something, that it's not about pills.
Wow.
Wow. So this young man is now in school in Johannesburg. He had a very, very bad scoliosis where breathing became an issue. His lungs just had no room for expansion, and it makes the body stress release makes a huge difference for him.
Wow, I'm so touched. Your electrical hands connecting my body with my mind. How clever is that? How amazingly clever is that?
Yes.
Jeanette, you sent the headmaster offered to be a demo the first time. So of course they also didn't know what body stress release is. They also ventured into this thing, accepting the help that you're offering, but not knowing what's going to happen.
But with the knowing that they needed some assistance, so that was a big part of it.
And the openness and trust, you know, and I'm sure they were very, very grateful for people.
They are very grateful. And we knew at the beginning of this year, we were starting to talk about the fact that we needed to get our outreaches up and running after basically a 2-year break. And I was talking to one of my fellow colleagues who also works on the foundation and is really been a big initiator behind these outreaches. She said, I think it's time to start again. And the risks are lower for the children. And the very next day, we got the phone call from Ikwezi asking, when are we coming back? And then we got the phone call from one of the schools we work in, Manenberg. When are you coming back? So at the moment with COVID, we had, prior to COVID, we were working in KZN at an organization there in Vanderbijl Park, Johannesburg, Manenberg in Cape Town, and Ikwezi, and Zambia. Since COVID, unfortunately, we're only back in at Ikwezi and Manenberg, but I'm sure that as the year progresses, more and more will start up again.
So it started with Ikwezi in Tata? And
no.
Where did it start?
Many years ago, there were 2 practitioners, foreign practitioners, one who's residing in the USA at the moment and one in the Netherlands. They wanted to work in a project and they started in Limpopo and then landed up also working in Malawi at schools for deaf children.
Wow.
And it was just, they decided they wanted to do something, but they contacted a local chief in the area and off they went. And that inspired other people to follow suit. It was a huge inspiration. And one of our Belgian practitioners has also worked extensively with Judas Square, which is a Rastafarian community in Knysna over the years. And my colleague Suraya Trudeau, her partner, was involved in a project, I think, teaching jewelry making to a community in Zambia. And her partner Suraya said, well, I'd like to go to Zambia, but 3 weeks is a long time to be doing nothing. Let's see if I can contact one of the foundations in the area and see if they need any help. And she collaborated with the Time and Tide Foundation, which own various lodges in Zambia, but they do extensive community work in terms of home-based schooling, nutrition, for children that need medical support. And they said, sure, we need help.
Wow.
And the amazing thing with working cooperatively with another foundation like the Time and Tide Foundation is they have now, we have our third person from the Time and Tide Foundation studying body stress release because there's such huge need in their communities. And they have seen children that have really responded in very positive ways to the body stress release. So they now want to have people working in their communities all the time. So the sustainability has become a sustainable project and cooperative project between two foundations. And we're absolutely thrilled that we've had, by the end of this year, we'll have 3 practitioners in Zambia just
Wow.
with the Time and Tide Foundation.
I think we need to speak to them as well at some point.
Yes.
Jeanette, it's so interesting. Luisteraars, julle luister na Jeanette Gibbs. Sy's 'n dosent by die Body Stress Release Academy. En sy vertel ook vir ons van die foundation, die Body Stress Release Foundation en die outreach programme wat hulle doen, die uitreikprogramme na Zambië, Manenberg, ek kan Umtata, daar is 'n verskeidenheid van plekke waar hulle mense wat in nood is help om die stres in hulle liggame te verlig. Jeanette, I'm going to give a song that you gave me. Luisteraars, ons gaan luister nou met die advertentiebreek na een van die liedjies wat Jeanette vir ons gekies het. Give a Little Bit deur Supertramp. Jeanette, is daar iets wat jy oor hierdie liedjie wil sê of spreek dit van self? Give a little bit.
Dit spreek yes, it says
Yes.
Lord.
Ons gesels net nou verder, luisteraars, moenie weggaan nie. Luisteraars, welkom terug. U luister na Ronel Lemmer en Jeanette Gibbs wat met ons gesels oor die Body Stress Release Outreach. Dit is so ongelooflik om te hoor die werk wat hulle doen by skole waar daar ongelooflike groot nood is en ook by mense waar daar wat fisiese probleme en fisiese gestremdhede het. Jeanette, what is the actual purpose of the foundation?
So the purpose of the Body Stress Release Foundation is to work towards the relief of suffering and pain and the improvement of quality of life for disabled and disadvantaged within communities. We also, part of one of our purposes is to support the training and funding of DSR practitioners through a bursary schemes.
Sure.
We also very conscious of working in collaboration with other organizations that also provide support and assistance to disabled and disadvantaged people within communities. The foundation also undertakes to support organizations and institutions in South Africa and other African countries. And our big thing is if somebody can have an improvement in the quality of life, even if it's one person, it's better than doing nothing. And there's a strong belief that if we all do a little bit, we can contribute vastly to a culture of us as opposed to I and them. Also, what's very important is we only take on outreaches that we're able to sustain, both financially and as well.
So that's very, very interesting, Jeanette. So what you're saying is that you can't just take on any town, any city, any village. It needs to be sustainable. And that is wonderful. It's not a once-off, you go in, you help people and you disappear. It's something that you want to be able to sustain, if I understand you correctly.
Absolutely important. It's a fundamental core value of ours that we don't take on projects where we're not able to provide the long-term support, because the real benefit for body stress release and the technique, it is a process, and people have ongoing stresses. So the benefit for who we're working with is actually in the longevity of it. And to be able to go in once a month or twice a year for a concentrated period of time.
Maybe this is a good time to tell us, how do we donate? How do we, because you do need funding, you do need other people to carry your wings so that you can fly and do the work.
Well, we have a foundation bank account. Would you like me to share that with you, or shall
we can people get the information on the website?
Yes, they can get the information on the Body Stress Release Foundation website, which is the BSR Foundation. Alternatively, on the bodystressrelease.com website also has a link to the foundation website.
Jeanette, what I'm going to do is, when we're done talking, you could maybe give me the details and I can see if I can add a link to that in a way. But luisteraars, dit sal wonderlik wees as elke mens R5 gee, as 10 mense R5 gee, dan is dit al dan help dit al vir hierdie mense om hulle werk te gaan doen, daar waar dit so bitter nodig is, as ons elkeen net 'n R5 of 'n R10 kan gee. Dit maak nie saak hoe klein die bydrae is nie. Please, it will really help these people to do these passionate work. Jeanette, but you're saying it's improving quality of life. Tell us, can you give us some examples of that? Like this boy you told us about with the scoliosis. What happened to him? How did it improve his quality of life?
So from his quality of life, primarily, it relieved some of the intense pressure that he was feeling over his lungs, and he was able to breathe easier. And so he had less pain. And that was for him, that's an improvement of quality of life, definitely.
Absolutely.
Because he can now sleep. But Renal, I wanted to mention something. With our outreach project that we do in Mannenberg, this actually, one of the parents or one of the pupils got in touch with us after she had seen a Facebook post of another outreach, and asked if we would be willing to work in that school. So if any of the listeners have a need, they are more than welcome to get in touch with us so we can actually see if we can assist. We'd be grateful to do it and talk to people.
Oh, that sounds fantastic, Jeanette. So can they contact you via Facebook? What is the name of your Facebook page?
BSR Outreach.
BSR Outreach. Luisteraars, dit klink wonderlik. So please, if you see a need and if you feel that this is speaking to you, dit praat met jou hart, kontak asseblief die foundation. Jeanette, so Mannenberg is also, if I'm understanding correctly, quite a difficult area, and people are really, really suffering there. So is it only with physical disabilities that you work? The
school, in Mannenberg, the children have varying disabilities, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and autism. So those are the conditions of the pupils. And that we have practitioners, at the moment it's about 6 or 7 practitioners that go in every Wednesday morning once a month, because they've done the initial groundwork. And what we see with cerebral palsy children, particularly those that are very spastic, Renal, some of the children, they have very little movement in their arms or their legs. They're very highly contracted. And after the releasing is suddenly a child's hand will open up that was clenched.
Wow.
Or the arm will open up. And we're not quite sure what it is that triggers the response, but it seems that just improving the communication in the nervous system is what allows for this change. And children that are very restless or can't settle down, it seems to calm them down. And we had an unusual case with a child in Zambia who had a heart condition. Her physical color changed in her body after the body stress release. She was very, very pale, light, brown, light brown. And after the session, she was in what the color she should have been. So that was a surprise. We certainly didn't expect something like that. And we presume that with the communication in the body improving, the circulation probably improved. We don't know.
Yeah.
So we have these amazing stories. And I remember in Umtata, there was a child who we were not aware of the huge response. This was a child who wasn't able to walk. And his mother was the head of the school governing body. And she came to us and she said she was so surprised because she came home and he was able to walk to the bathroom.
What?
It was like, what? So he had the ability to walk, but he wasn't able to walk because of his condition. And that just shows that just a little bit of work. He'd had 3 sessions. She came to us at the end of the project and said, you don't know what you've done. And we went, what did we do? So
and he's still walking?
Yes, he's still walking.
Wow, Jeanette, isn't that a story of hope and joy? Wow.
And hope and joy. So I say, if it makes a difference to one, that's better than nothing. we really feel that that's so important.
Sure.
Yeah, we're very privileged.
To be able to see changes, even if it's a little change. Like you say, the color of the skin changing, just a little change, a little bit of easier breathing helps that child to have a better quality of life.
I think also touch is so important because the technique is very gentle, so the process is not uncomfortable for the children. But there is also, for me, a huge, I don't know whether in some societies is a stigma for children that are born with disabilities.
Sure.
But I believe that just the touch is absolutely important, because in the case of like Umtata, these children are in a boarding school. They're not staying at home. So they are a part of 240 kids. So they don't get as much contact, I think, or just touch. That touch seems to be so essential for humans and animals. But
I absolutely agree, Jeanette. I think, isn't the skin an extra organ that we have? And if ek sê altyd, luisteraars, ek raak velhonger. 'n Mens raak velhonger. We all have that need to be touched and to make a social connection. There's actually a saying that says, safety is not the absence of danger, it's the presence of connection. And then a physical connection is also so important in order to feel safe, I believe. And that's what you're saying, is this makes them feel safe.
There's a touch. And I witnessed one of our practitioners, she'd literally just qualified and said, I really want to go and work on this outreach. And she came with us, and I remember looking at her, and there were 7 children around her. And they all were hanging onto a part of her body. They just, while she was making some notes, they just wanted to be surrounded by just having that physical connection.
Wow.
And we don't always understand. I mean, for some of the children that we work with, they are unable to speak, or we don't understand their language. So it really is a case of that touch is our biggest communication tool.
Wow, that is really, really powerful.
It is very powerful.
Sure. Luisteraars gaan kyk gerus na die website www.bodystressrelease. Dit is een woord, bodystressrelease, nie relief nie, release. .com. Sê ek hom reg, Jeanette? Did I?
That's or.co.za.
Okay.
Yeah.
En kyk, soek gerus na die outreach deel en kyk of jy kan bydra, is dit R5 of R2. Dat ons kan help om hierdie kinders te bereik. Jeanette, you gave us a song. It's Jessica by Ray Dillon. What is the story of this song?
I asked my colleague, Saray, come on, find a song for me. And she said, oh, it has to be Jessica. I said, Jessica? She said, yes. She said, we were in Zambia and there was a young girl called Jessica. She arrived in this bright, bright yellow dress and she was so happy. And we thought, we have to play the song to her called Jessica. And we have this beautiful video clip, which is on our outreach Facebook page of Jessica dancing to Jessica.
Oh, I'm going to look for that. Dit klink net beautiful. Luisteraars, ons gaan 'n advertensiebreek neem en dans saam met ons en Jessica in Zambië na die liedjie Jessica by Ray Dillon. Luisteraars, welkom terug by ons sit Koppe bymekaar. Ons gesels vanaand met Jeanette Gibbs. Ek is sommer baie excited en opgewonde as ek luister na wat sy alles vertel en die wonderlike dinge wat hulle doen met die outreach, die body stress release outreach in verskillende plekke. Jeanette, you spoke about physical changes and even something as dramatic as a boy that could walk again. I'm sure these people also, you didn't expect it, but these people also didn't expect all the changes that's happening. Are they becoming more aware of what's happening in the bodies?
They are, and I'm going to share another story for you.
Please.
If that's okay.
Please.
And the story goes, I am Zico. I'm living with a disability, which is a TB spine. I had a painful backbone, mostly in bad weather. I used to feel like I carried a heavy load. I also had a painful skull. I struggled to sleep because of the pains. Then I had a body stress release. After the very first session, I felt, wow, I was rather amazed because of the huge change in me. I felt like a load has been off my body. Previously, I couldn't raise my arms high before the session, but after the session, I was able to raise my arms even higher. Thank you to the body stress release. I feel good, great, well, and excellent.
Good, great, well, and excellent. Isn't that fantastic?
So he is 18 and had tuberculosis, which affected his spine. Renal, I will share a picture of that with you so that your listeners have an idea of how children are affected. Many children in the Eastern Cape have Spina Bifida, which for the listeners may not be aware, but it really is where part of the spine, the lower spine, doesn't form fully. Sure. And that can leave them with no function in their legs or bladder control. So it can have a huge impact on them. And I believe that one of the major causes of Spina Bifida can be related to the lack of folic acid during mom's pregnancy, sure, which goes to poor nutrition. So these are very real problems I think some of these rural communities in Africa are facing. So I'm sure there are many NGOs that are doing great work in that space as well.
Luisteraars, ek sal van hierdie foto's deel op ons Facebookblad, Klein Karoo Connect se Facebookblad. Gaan kyk gerus daar, because I think it will be great to actually see what you're talking about, Jeanette.
It will give, it has to actually visually be able to have a look at the picture and say, wow, okay. And also how many families feel alone when they have children with disabilities, to know that there are many organizations, an organization like the BSR Foundation, we want to be part of your support.
Yeah.
Many children have access to wonderful facilities, but there are many that don't.
Yes.
And that's where we wanting to help, is those that actually don't have support.
Jeanette, and I'm thinking now about the practical thing. When you went, when you know, many years ago, when they started to go for these outreaches and to go and help, they didn't have a table to work on, or, you know, like a fancy bed that can lift up and go down. How did you work? Did you work on tables? How did you make this work?
Well, fortunately, we have portable beds, and which we can carry quite easily.
Yeah.
And then one of my colleagues came up with this wonderful concept of a legless portable bed, where you can put it in like a backpack. And she came up with a concept of, so that if you were going to work on a person in an old age home that was bedridden, or as long as you had a surface, we could put the person onto that surface, and we call them Poppins legless portable beds.
Poppins, nogal Mary Poppins.
Yes. So we have a supply of portable beds, as well as the legless portable beds, which we take with us. So, and there are times that in Zambia, I think they had to work on millisacks.
Wow.
It doesn't matter. Whatever the situation is, we can adjust and make a plan, because some children can't physically lie down either. So if we need to work on them while they're sitting, we can do that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's about adjusting to what their situation is. And also, Renelle, I forgot to mention, is how important it is to really be in a heart-centered space when we're in these projects, where we're only working from a place of love and understanding, and not to feel sorry for people, but rather just be in a place of love and understanding, because we also don't know all the circumstances.
Say a bit more about that, not feeling sorry. So you have to work with your own emotions, because I'm sure you're so touched by what you've seen there and the need. Say a bit more about that.
So sometimes you can feel that there's this, we have to be very focused on not expecting an outcome. That's the first thing, that we're going to expect that a child is going to suddenly have a miraculous turnaround, but to only just say, okay, we're here, we apply the technique of BSR, we work gently, and we open our hearts. So we're not in a place where we're judging the situation, the organization, or the institution, and the lack or the limitations. Because from what I see, it's so interesting, Renelle, is the children are happy, irrespective of, they have emotions like sadness, and from people that have a lot can be unbelievably unhappy. People that have a little can be unbelievably happy. It's how we work, and to not sit in the space of judging the environment, but rather a place of acceptance, heart space, and applying the technique of BSR to the best of our ability. That is very important.
So
yes.
Sorry, it's about being in the moment, being present in that specific moment with what you're doing.
Yes. And sometimes one of the practitioners said to me, oh, the first day was really hard. But I realized the work and being there, you see things, it's humbling. Renelle, it's humbling because we have our bodies that work well, and it's humbling to see people just getting on with their lives that really struggle with their physical and sometimes emotional bodies, but yet they still arrive with a smile. And then that separation of not thinking, this is terrible, this is a terrible thing. So then, because then you slide into pity.
Yeah.
And that's not enabling on anybody.
Yes, and I think pity is also looking down on someone, looking down at someone from an advantaged point if you have pity on someone. So
Correct.
then you're not on the same level anymore.
Yes. So
Yeah.
the heart, that's when we talk about heart-centered. It's about being there, opening your heart and being in that moment with that person. And sometimes it's incredibly noisy. I mean, we can have 30 kids around us,
Sure,
laughing and joking or shouting or whatever. And it's that time with that one child is your focus has got to be 100% in it.
Wow. Oh, ek haal my hoed af vir julle. Ek het baie respek vir julle wat in hierdie omstandighede gaan werk, Jeanette. So there's you were talking earlier about there's some international providers as well, practitioners that's also doing and working on these outreaches. You mentioned Belgium, you mentioned the USA. So are they traveling the year and then they work here for a time and they go back?
Yes, so
wow.
they really any practitioner anywhere in the world can participate in if they're in practice and they want to join an outreach, they're more than welcome. I think in Mthatha, the recent outreach, we had, I think, maybe 1 or 2 Dutch that participated. We had some Dutch practitioners working at Judah Square, also in April on the community there. So our Dutch practitioners and the Europeans, they love to participate and they fund themselves.
Wow.
And they come and they work and they go home.
That is absolutely incredible. Jeanette, do you have a last feel-good story for us? I'm sure you have many. I'm sure you have many. Is there someone that, or one that stands out now in the moment when you think about it?
Well, the one is a little girl. She's, her legs were completely bent at the knees. Contracted. She wasn't able to straighten them. And we worked on her back, and over 4, we did 4 sessions because the improvement was so dramatic, because by the end of the 4th session, her legs were straight.
Oh, 4 sessions.
Yes.
Wow.
Over a 2-week period. So that was just like, that for us was like witnessing a miracle in terms of, it was so unexpected.
I'm just trying to imagine what it must feel like if your legs can't straighten.
Yes.
How uncomfortable that must be. And also, as you described earlier, the cerebral palsy with the hands in being spastic. How uncomfortable that must be, and how absolutely, what a relief it must be to be able to open up your hands and to straighten your legs. That must be absolutely amazing. Correct. For them.
No, it definitely is amazing. And also sometimes I remember seeing with a child whose hand was spastic, and then she started opening it. She was looking at her hand in absolute amazement. It was like, oh, look, oh.
I was wondering what her reaction was, what her own reaction was. So she was surprised.
She was surprised.
Oh, well, wonderful.
Yes.
Jeanette, and so when you go back, you go twice a year. When you go back, do you work on the same kids, or are they new? How does it work? New kids?
There's a certain degree of flow in the school with children leaving the school, because the school also goes from the children from about 6 to the oldest that we worked on was 22. So the age variations are quite great. So there are some children that leave school and new ones are coming in. So we have new ones, but we also work on the ones we have worked on before.
And they're not afraid to get onto the millisack or the bed or whatever surface they just go for it when it's new to them. How are the kids' reactions?
They see the classmates and things, that but also a groundbreaker for us is having one of our practitioners who grew up in Umtata, Tembisile. And he always comes with us. It's so close to his heart. In fact, he has a practice now at the school in Umtata. Where in exchange for his space in the school, he has to work on some children with regular intervals. But Tembisile, he just knows children and they adore him. And so whatever he tells them to do, they do.
I think we need to speak to Tembisile at some point. It will be interesting to hear what his experiences are. So you've already trained a few practitioners who's working in those areas?
No, not in only in Zambia so far.
In Zambia?
Yeah, we would like to have more. With Tembisile, he was living in Cape Town and came to study body stress release, but he grew up in the Eastern Cape. And after the first outreach, he joined us in Umtata. He says there's work to be done there. So he moved there. So he's moved to Umtata to do his practice there.
That is absolutely fascinating.
So,
is there a last word or a last story that you want to share with the listeners, or just the last thought?
Well, for the listeners, I'm grateful for this opportunity, Renal, to chat. And for listeners, know that if you have children that are struggling, know that you're not alone. And amazing to just give. And also what I wanted to say, Renal, in the giving is we get so much back in return. And that's a huge growth for all of us.
That is true. Luisteraars, ek voel skoon aangedaan. Ek nou lekker gesels met Jeanette Gibbs. As daar van u is met kinders met fisiese disabilities of selfs iets soos autisme of ander disabilities, soos wat sy gesê het, u is nie alleen nie. Kontak gerus die Body Stress Release Foundation as u wil 'n donasie maak, of ook meer inligting wil hê by www.bodystressrelease.co.za of bodystressrelease.com. Al hierdie inligting sal daar wees, en ook op ons Facebookblad sal ek van hierdie inligting deel. Jeanette, it was such a pleasure. Thank you so much. And I think your last song is absolutely fitting of the wonderful, wonderful work that you're doing. Luisteraars, ons gaan nou laastens luister na Great Heart, deur Johnny Clegg en Savuka, and that is the Body Stress Release Foundation. They do have a great heart. Thank you so much.